will now call to order the Monday, March 16th, 2026 meeting of the City of Hayden Planning and Zoning Commission. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chair Taylor,
Here.
Vice Chair Morris,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Grano,
Here.
Commissioner Vargas.
Here. Now rise for the pledge, please.
Thank you, that's what I was thinking too.
Or you want to lead us?
No. Let someone else.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any additions or corrections for the agenda? No. Okay. Any conflicts of interest? No. Nope. We have the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are action items. Do we have any discussion or would like a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
The consent calendar. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Do we need a roll call for that or can we just do a?
You can do all in favor, but who made that motion? Chair Morris?
Commissioner Morris?
And who seconded? Joel?
Yes, ma'am. All in
Commissioner
favor?
Johnson?
Aye.
Aye. There we go. So our first item is the public hearing, PZE 25-0080. Donna.
I finally got logged in. I can block the exit. Evening.
Good evening.
We're here tonight to have a public hearing on the Sycamore Valley subdivision. Some background on the request, the owner, the applicant, the engineer of record, all those parts and pieces that are important. The applicant and engineer of record are Olson Engineering, and Jeremy Chizuli is around here somewhere in the back that he'll be presenting on behalf of the applicant. The owner is Kulka Land LLC. And the request is for a 37-lot subdivision on 2 lots, approximately 13 acres in size. Access is proposed to be from Maple and East Miles Avenue. So just as kind of a get a, where are we at in the world conversation, the property is kind of shown in a yellow border. It's south of Dana Court, west of North Maple Street, north of Miles. Subdivision does not include 385, which is kind of a cutout location, but it does include 337, 565, and 587. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the applicant.
Has anyone had any ex parte communication with the applicant prior to this? No?
No.
No.
Just easy to read. That makes
Thanks.
sense. It's too bad that house is going. That house is down here, I like that one.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jeremy Terzulli. I'm a land use consultant here in Kootenai County, collaborating with Ryan Stoker of Kulka Land and Olson Engineering tonight. Just handed out the preliminary subdivision plan that I think is a little easier to read than what might be on your notes, so can reference that throughout my presentation. And then we'll just get started. A lot of new faces up here. So I've been in front of this commission for a number of years now. The subdivision approval process is a quasi-judicial process. You folks know that. So what that means is that the city code does lay out conditions of approval for the subdivision. And then the staff, myself, will lay out the findings of fact. And I just thought for everybody here tonight, it might kind of help how this process lays out. Because a lot of times it can come off as though I'm speaking in code or I know something that everybody else doesn't know. And the truth of the matter is I kind of do, because we started this process nearly 2 years ago when this property came up for sale. So the client looked at the property. He'll meet with the engineer, the consultant. A lot of times we'll have a pre-development meeting with the city staff to see about the viability of a proposal for redevelopment of the land. So that's what we did. And like I said, that process started over 2 years ago. And so a lot of times folks in the crowd might feel like this is sort of a foregone conclusion. I can assure them that it is not. It's just that we've had multiple meetings with the city. We've had multiple meetings with irrigation districts. In some cases, you know, DEQ will get looped in. We've had an awful lot of time and familiarity with this project. And throughout this process, through this quasi-judicial process, a lot of city code is simple yes or no questions, meaning infrastructure, streets, those types of things. And so it can feel like I'm glossing over those. I'm not. It's just that a thorough analysis of this proposal has already been done before we get to this point tonight. So with that, I'm going to jump into some of the findings of fact, and we'll just go through them one at a time. The first review criteria, and I don't go through them line by line. There are 7 in the staff report. I sort of try to paint an overall picture. They can usually be categorized into infrastructure questions, underlying zoning questions, streets and engineering type questions. And I just go through them and do it in broad strokes, and I hope to hit each point as I do that. So with regard to utilities, the water purveyor in the area would be Avondale Irrigation District. That district has provided a will serve letter. We've been in communication with their director. There are some redundancies and some upsizing of pipes in the area that needs to happen. Those are reflected on our preliminary plans because the city does require, before we get to a public hearing, that we have a plan set that represents about a 70% complete set. So we've met with the water district. We understand what their requirements are going to be, what those offsites will be, and we've worked through those in our preliminary design. Additionally, we'll be able to pull in pipe sizes that will create sufficient fire flows in the area. City sewer is going to be provided by the city of Hayden. We do have a will serve letter from the city of Hayden, which collaborates with the Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board, which does the treatment. Again, those letters are very specific in so much as they state that at this time, we have capacity, we can serve the property so long as pipes and the sewer master plan is followed. We cannot guarantee that at the time of development because it's not to say if we get to an approval, we will go to build immediately. It's their best guess that as of right now, infrastructure can be installed in a way that is in accordance with the master plan. They do have the capacity and willingness to serve this with municipal sewer. With regard to dry utilities in the area, most of this area is built out, so there is natural gas and power and data providers throughout. How this typically will work, again, if we move to an approval, we will move to finalize that 70% plan set. At that time, the engineer of record will start to secure and talk with all of these utility providers, let them know that we'll have a subdivision coming forth. We start to coordinate when our construction schedule is, when ditches are open, interconnects happen, everybody gets their gear in at the same time, and all of those stubs go to future lots at the site. So all of that coordination happens during the final phase of design. Regarding streets, this is actually a pretty easy one for internal on the subdivision. The city code does lay out exactly what the street network, I'm sorry, not what the street network, but what the design of the street needs to look like. And my next slide expands on that a little bit. So all of the streets were designed to city standard. Stormwater and snow storage can become an issue if there are things like cul-de-sacs, dead ends, private roads. None of those are being proposed in this subdivision. They're all city streets, so you'll see the curb line, the swale with the street trees in it, the sidewalk. Stormwater and snow storage goes in those street side swales and is pre-treated before it goes into the ground. Another one of those requirements in city code talks about driveway placement. As you can see on the preliminary subdivision plan, these are incredibly large lots. In fact, I think only 4 are less than 10,000 square feet. They're all quarter acre and bigger, or the vast majority, which gives us a ton of frontage. Placing those driveways will be no problem. Most of the time, you'll see driveways kind of close together on 2 properties, and then the mirror image again. That's just to benefit the utilities going in. It's not to say we have to design it that way. The point I'm making is we have a ton of frontage to accommodate driveways. It's a non-issue on this proposal. Mailbox locations have been reserved. We would talk with the postmaster about his or her preferred location for those. And then additionally, with regard to streets, right-of-way dedication has to occur at Miles and Maple. We are on the hard corner. And the half section of those roadways to city standard will be required as part of this development. Not a problem there. So through this process, those dedications and frontage improvements will be required. And then this slide right here just shows you in yellow, those are where we have reserved an area to put those mailbox clusters. They can go in either of those locations or both. The postmaster will dictate where we want those. So we reserved 2 spots. And then if you look at that red oval shape, that's a blow up of the half of a street section, kind of further explaining what I was saying earlier about snow storage, swale, that sort of thing. All of our internal streets follow this design, which is the curb line, a 10-foot street side swale with the required street trees, the 5-foot sidewalk, and then you have a half a foot between that and the property line, so that if that sidewalk ever needs to be replaced, form boards, excavation can happen in that area. In addition, all newer subdivisions require that 10-foot utility and drainage easement, which is outside of the right-of-way and that first 10 feet inside of an individual property owner's property. That's 99 times out of 100 where dry utilities go. That's where we're gonna put the gas lines, the power lines, the conduits, the water, all that sort of stuff. The water meters go in there. It's almost never used for stormwater, but it is identified as a utility and stormwater easement. So with regard to other areas within city code, that is one of our review criteria. Does it meet the underlying zoning and other areas of impact within that zoning code? So the R1 zoning designation has a minimum lot size of 8,250. We are in excess of 8,250 square feet on all of our lots. And as I mentioned, I think only 4 are even less than 10,000 square feet. So these are incredibly large lots in this subdivision. If you look around the neighborhood, there are still some larger 1-acre pieces along Maple, but any of the development that has occurred in the area tends to be those 5th and quarter-acre lots. So you can see that this is incredibly consistent with other developments that have occurred in the area. The plans will be reviewed by the city engineer, and other agencies will all have another look at our plans through the submittal process. That includes Panhandle Health District, DEQ, Avondale, and specifically Northern Lakes Fire Protection. So in our noticing period, something slipped through the cracks, and it would appear that Northern Lakes did not receive their review fee from us. It's usually pretty benign at this stage of the process, meaning they check for access to make sure the radii are sufficient for their fire truck and that no more than 30 lots are on a single point of entry. All of those check the boxes, and we will check with Tyler about placement of fire hydrants. And then you'll see their reviews come across with your packets often, where they will reserve their additional review at time of submittal for the construction plans. That was an oversight on our part, but everything tracks here. we will get Northern Lakes paid for that review fee and ask that staff slide it into the packet before we get to council. So I just wanted to bring that up. It's one of those things that does happen, but we're very familiar with Northern Lakes requirements at this stage of the process. So additionally, in city code, it will talk a lot about, sediment control, erosion control, those types of things. The engineer of record, who's with me here tonight, in case you have any technical questions for him, City of Hayden does require full-time oversight of installation of what will become public infrastructure. And so the engineer will be on site throughout this process, will be coordinating with the contractor, assuming we move to construction on this project. It's another layer of assurance that best management practices are being followed throughout this process. Again, as I mentioned, 2 years in, multiple meetings with city staff, multiple meetings with other agencies that have jurisdiction over projects like this. No additional studies were indicated that we would need to provide at this stage of the process. So that is another thing that is in city code. And then fees will be assessed for any impact on traffic and parks for this proposal. And then speaking of parks, that is the 2040 Parks Master Plan that's adopted as one of the guiding documents for the city of Hayden. After 16-ish months on this project, this one's on me. A lot of the projects that I bring before you guys have an annexation agreement attached to them. Those will be on the west side of Highway 95, perhaps up north by Lancaster, the Marks Ranch project, one that comes to mind. Through that annexation process, there's typically a discussion about contribution for parklands. Those are hammered out in that annexation agreement, and so it becomes sort of a non-issue. We know what the park requirements are. It's in the annexation agreement. We work through it. Donna emailed us back in October and said, hey, I'm preparing my staff report because we were planning to come before you last November, and there is a section of code that talks about the Parks Master Plan and how are you in compliance with the Parks Master Plan. So we pumped the brakes on this, reanalyzed the Parks Master Plan. If you look, our project hovers in this area right here, and that fun little shape right there, if you look over here, says proposed future neighborhood park. Again, location is general. It's a guidepost. It's saying that the city's adopted Parks Master Plan anticipates 2 neighborhood parks in the northeast quadrant of town. We've got the big park up here at Hayden Canyon, Marks Ranch, which I mentioned earlier, I believe is there. There's an annexation agreement that talks about what that park is gonna look like there, leaving one park sort of unidentified in this quadrant. So we got to work. We called a meeting with city staff and said, how would we like to navigate this? Kind of back and forth a little bit. I talked with my client. We had a couple of conference calls. We talked about, do they want to work with us to put a park here? Because if you look at the next slide, this is also from the Parks Master Plan, and this talks about the Northeast Planning District. You'll see that Hayden Canyon, $0 required for park acquisition because it was a requirement of annexation. Park number 1 would, let's just call that the Marks Ranch Park that has worked out through the annexation agreement, leaving the second one. The master plan does identify that the city is going to have to purchase parkland here because a lot of this area is built out, and annexation and documentation through annexation agreements is likely not to yield the parkland required in this area. So we recognize that. We started negotiating with the city. What does that look like? How much parkland do you feel that you need? The park plan says 5 to 10 acres. That would be the entirety of this site. Do you want to buy the entire site from us? That was a no. how much would you want to buy of this development? We never really got anywhere. We talked about the existing home site. Would you like to take this corner and turn it into a city park, preserving the home site and maybe one of the barns? That idea worked for a little bit, but then the thought of purchasing that, as well as then taking on a building that would likely require hundreds of thousands of dollars of remediation, that kind of fell flat. And then I brought up to city staff that I was aware of a vacant parcel, 2.25 acres or so, plus or minus, nearby to this site. Sitting there, vacant, no structures on it, rather narrow, not a lot of frontage improvements, and said, would this parcel be of interest to you? It's not officially on the market right now, but I happen to know who the owner is, and I happen to have a thought that they might consider letting go of this property. Identified the property to city staff. They said find out if they'd sell it. So I found out if they'd sell it. The answer was yes. At that point, I provided some additional documentation to the city, comparable sales, and then I was asked to basically just step away. Hey, thanks for what you've done so far, like genuinely, but this cannot look like a quid pro quo type of situation. This can't look like it's we like this property. You've put us in contact with the broker for the owners, and we're gonna pursue this from here. That's what I know about it thus far. I don't know if staff has anything more to add to that when they move to their presentation. But regarding the parks master plan and that requirement of trying to satisfy the elements of the park master plan, I believe that, thanks to Donna, that we didn't come in here and run into a buzzsaw. She pointed it out to us, and we all worked in good faith to try to identify parkland that would be satisfactory to the city through that process. So that's how I believe we would be in compliance with that section of city code. In summary, as I've pointed out, I don't know why the formatting screwed up when it came through here, but it all kind of bled together. Sorry about that. Water and sewer readily available. That's one of those yes or no questions. We've looked at the city drawings. We know we can make it work. We're gonna extend sewer up north on Maple to pick up a dry line that is in Dana Court right now, so that if those folks ever need to hook up to city sewer, that line will now be active and move down to the collection point further at the intersection of Miles and Maple. All this infrastructure can and will be installed in an orderly manner. Additional requirements from all agencies having jurisdiction will promote public health and safety, specifically something like Avondale. When we put water lines in the ground, we have to pressure test all of those new lines, create the appropriate valving, fill the water in the pipe, and then do bacteria testing, which then gets sent to laboratories. When sewer pipes go in the ground, after they're installed and backfilled, run cameras through those to make sure that those are sloped properly. All these additional requirements that come through the construction process that the average citizen might not know happen, those are all ways that we can ensure that public health and safety is being thought of. As I mentioned, all of our streets do comply with city design standards and the engineer oversight of infrastructure, ensuring that best management practices are being followed. Impact fees, if the city's able to acquire that parkland, impact fees here could go into the kitty to help put improvements on that park, hopefully nearby. Additionally, staff in their review has recommended additional conditions. We've reviewed those, we're fine with those. Those can add additional guardrails to our proposal. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Are you gonna be keeping just a four-way stop sign at that, or are you gonna put a temporary hanging light, or what are you gonna do for the intersection there?
Four-way stop is all that's being proposed at this point in time.
Okay.
Sir, can I give a copy of the
Oh, yeah.
extra?
You bet.
Thank you.
I don't have any now.
Vince, you have any questions? No? Any other questions from the commissioners? Nope. Not at this time.
Okay.
Donna?
Okay, quick question.
Got it directed to them.
What's the city's requirement for parkland within northern, within Hayden? What's the
It's-
requirement, the space allotment? Because it went from 10 acres to 2.5. That math doesn't math to me, so could you?
It's all put out in the, in our parks master plan. And what they say is, we have different areas where we want to put different parks in. Typically, we do get it out of annexations. But I believe Donna will also address some of this in her presentation.
Hi. So there are 8 standards of approval for a subdivision, and we found in many times that trying to put all 8 of those standards on a single slide was pretty difficult, so I didn't try to do that. They are in your staff analysis, both in the body of the analysis as well as in the appendix. So the first 2 standards of approval have to do with infrastructure and whether or not it can be constructed to promote public health, safety, and welfare, and whether or not it can be constructed and located in an orderly manner that accommodates ongoing maintenance needs when taking into consideration co-location of other infrastructure. And as you've heard earlier and you've seen previously, infrastructure is 90% of the staff analysis, so we'll be covering those throughout. So can the infrastructure, or will it be in compliance with applicable city, state, and federal policies and regulations? So water requirements, we received a will serve letter provided by Avondale Irrigation District in October of 2024. And then they provided an updated will serve today, in fact, that basically was just a redo of the previous one, except that they changed the date at the top. All water utility infrastructure is required to abide by both water jurisdiction requirements as well as city code standards and policies. The sewer requirements, the will serve provided by the city was in September of 2025. It identified that the sewer was in the H1 sewer basin. It identified that that residence that was located kind of in the middle and being surrounded on 3 sides by the subdivision, that it would also have to be connected to city sewer. And that was as a result of a boundary line adjustment. Our boundary line adjustment code requires that if you do a subdivision on either one of the properties that were involved in a boundary line adjustment within 3 years, that you have to put in the frontage improvements on that piece of property, and you have to connect them to municipal services when they're available. And then the stormwater and snow storage requirements will be reviewed at the time of the construction plan review, and those will be reviewed in accordance with Title 8 of the city code. So I wanted to kind of take a pause here when we're looking at this particular. I kind of overlaid the plat map that Mr. Chizuli handed out to the commission on top of the aerial imagery, so you can get kind of a feel on how it would look in conjunction with the neighbors. They did a really good job, generally speaking, in trying to line up rear lot lines. You didn't have kind of an offset of lot lines to those properties to the north. Mr. Terzulli identified that they actually were extending the sewer beyond their northern boundary to connect sewer into Dana Court to the north. That's in accordance with the sewer master plan of the city of Hayden. Dana Court was built between 1992 and 1993, and they actually have sewer in Dana Court. And every single one of these homes that's currently on septic today actually paid their sewer cap fee connection when they built their houses. So when they actually make that conversion from septic to city sewer, they won't have to pay that $12,000 plus cap fee that exists today. Those fees have already been paid at the time of their building permits. Let's see, so what else? So as you're looking at this piece of property, they also noted, going east and west, that, and just north and south, as they wrap those streets around, that they didn't put any cul-de-sacs in, which is request of the snow plowers, because cul-de-sacs take more work, and they have a lot of pavement section in there, and they don't have any eyebrows. So an eyebrow is kind of like a wow. And so when you're plowing snow, you push that snow around the eyebrow, and at the top of the eyebrow, that's where all the snow lands. And so those are very difficult as well in the wintertime. So they did follow that kind of path that the Public Works Department had requested. They also lined this street up potentially with East Pearl, who is envisioned to go at some point, not today or tomorrow, and nobody's requiring it, but it does line these two streets up so that they could potentially connect in the future. And it also lines up with the fact that this lot down here is quite large as well, and so a future street could continue into this lot to the south. So for connectivity purposes, as it relates to snow plowing and road maintenance and what have you, and connecting the city, it does do that. I did want to note that in the staff analysis, it talks about bike connectivity. It does identify that Maple Street has a share the road class 3 bike path in accordance with the transportation master plan. And moving on. So F, provisions have been made for parks and open space that are consistent with the adopted parks master plan as amended and that satisfy the city's requirement. So just as in your staff analysis, we pulled out excerpts of the transportation master plan. We also pulled out the master plan for the parks master plan. And the parks master plan identifies a neighborhood park kind of smack dab over the top of this particular project site. But the master plan is a very, the parks master plan is a very large, open, not an exact location map. And I'm actually gonna pull up Mr. Tuzuli's map because he had it up here. And I didn't put that one in my PowerPoint. So it shows a variety of locations that parks could land in. As we do updates to the parks master plan, if we have known locations of where those parks are located, then we can easily plop the park on it. But as you can see from these two here and here, those are not in exact locations of where parks are going to be. They're somewhere in that general vicinity that you could put a park. So we wanted to note that, and we wanted to make sure that the applicant was aware that there are parks that are looking like in this area and that that question would come up. But I also put, not this version of it, in the staff analysis is a map that kind of shows a blown up area of about a half a mile that goes kind of surrounding this piece of property. And you can see that this isn't the only piece of property in that half a mile area that's in the staff analysis that has larger pieces of property. There are larger pieces of property in the area, but that doesn't mean that the city is able to, purchase those or has the ability to do that. We are exploring our opportunities. So then there are 3 more standards. One of them is about erosion control, and although this site is pretty flat, it does have an area that gets a little bit steeper at about an 8% slope. And so the erosion control and geohazard stabilization will be reviewed during the construction plan submittal to make sure that it's not, rolling off the site. All utilities for the site shall be placed underground, and mailbox locations shall be located on internal public streets to remove those off of Maple and to remove those off of Miles Avenue. No parcels shall have access, primary or secondary, to Maple Street or to Miles Avenue. Proposed subdivision is or is not proposed for the use, and does it conform with other requirements found in the code? So it's proposed to be a single-family residential subdivision with single-family residential lots. As you can note here, the minimum lot size for a single-family residential lot is 8,250 square feet. Their smallest lot is about 8,700 square feet, And the largest lot is 17,000. Those are kind of those corner lots that go out in a kind of a wide back end. On average, they come out at about 11,000 square feet a lot. So all of these lots are larger than what the minimum is required to be. And then the setbacks for the principal and accessory structures, those are standard, and they weren't looking for any deviations from that code. In your goals and policies, we adopted a comprehensive plan last November, and this project has been in since the beginning of last year. So it actually came in prior to the currently adopted comprehensive plan. So they fall under the old goals and policies because of the time that it was applied for. So some of the goals are that they want to maintain an attractive and balanced mix of land uses, densities, and housing types, ensuring that future character of the community. The city of Hayden should encourage the development within the corporate limits before annexation, preserve and protect and strengthen the vitality and stability of the existing neighborhoods, ensure all development can be serviced by existing public facilities or extended to adequately serve the development, ensure adequate park recreation and open space are provided and maintained for the continued enjoyment of the community, adequately site public facilities and utilities without compromising surrounding neighborhood integrity and character, protect, preserve, and be stewards of environment's natural areas and resources which enhance the life of the city, and coordinate the timely development of efficient, effective, and environmentally sound sewer, water, and other utility infrastructure. And then policies are found on page 12 of your staff analysis. And that is that the city should judiciously evaluate the opportunity to provide sewer, water, and other services within the corporate limits. Development should be compatible with the land use chapter of the comprehensive plan. That the city should evaluate community-wide impacts from the development. Should improve pedestrian, bicycle, vehicular safety along city streets. The growth should be accompanied by the development of infrastructure, public services, utilities, preservation of open space and recreational facilities. That we should coordinate and support local water and irrigation districts in an effort to balance growth and available water supplies. And that we should ensure levels of public services, facilities, and utilities are adequate to satisfy the community's needs now and as new development occurs. I'm tongue-tied tonight. And policy 18, minimize the financial and operational impacts resulting from road improvement projects and maintenance. And then the 8th standard is that all on-site and off-site improvements shall be required of the developer, extension of infrastructure per the adopted city code standards and plans, and that mitigating improvements as required. So all improvement shall be required of the developer to include infrastructure development and dedication, extension of infrastructure per the adopted city code standards and plans as required. I wanted to back up really briefly. If the city is able to, and after their exploration is able to secure land that may be near this development, we would hope that the Planning and Zoning Commission may or choose to potentially add a condition of approval that would require the developer to make some kind of connectivity to that area so that the neighbors of this, or the residents of this neighborhood could enjoy that parkland area, if that becomes possible to the city. And that is not a condition as noted here. So we sent noticing out. Agency notice was sent to 24 agencies. You can find that on page 13 of your staff analysis. And of those, we received 5 comments back. Panhandle Health District requires an application be submitted and that all fees are paid prior to final plat. They do a review of the subdivision and the dry wells that go into the subdivision. Kootenai County Sheriff's Office did not have any concerns at the time of their response, and they did provide a letter with additional information regarding impacts to the resources that are available with the Sheriff's Department. And Avondale Irrigation District didn't have any additional comments. Idaho Fish and Game didn't have any comments. And the Coeur d'Alene Airport requested an navigation, that is a typo, an navigation easement to be completed at the time of the subdivision. So that's an easement that's recorded with the airport and then identified on the face of the final plat. So you received 2 sets of public comments in Board Book. Those 2 public comments were, we noticed the project in November, and it was identified that we needed to, hold on and wait a minute. And so those were the first set of public comments that are in there, and then you received a second set of public comments for the noticing for here tonight. And then at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, we received an additional comment. And I have always strive to make sure that if we get those public comments before 5 o'clock, that they're included in the presentation, the hearing. Most of them were self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go over those in depth unless you have questions. So then the staff recommended conditions of approval also began on page 13. They identified that the conditions provided here are in addition to those in the subdivision requirements of Hayden City Codes, policies, plans, et cetera. Any dedications and easements will be on the plat, or sometimes they'll be recorded as a separate document and then noted on the plat. Subdivisions require permits from other agencies, not just us. So the Coeur d'Alene Airport requires that navigation easement. As Jeremy noted, the Northern Lakes Fire Protection District has a review process. Panhandle Health District has a review process. Idaho Department of Environmental Quality reviews all water line and all sewer line construction. So there are lots of people that are looking at what's going on in this subdivision. All approvals run with the land. Those lots, again, will only be accessed for primary and secondary access off of the roads within the subdivision, so not on Maple, not on Miles. The construction plan requirements, there we go. The construction plan requirements are that the local streets, those internal streets, are part of what we call a typical section ST 111 and 111A. We identified those erosion control measures and the fact they have to follow the best management practices. There's no cross-country sewer alignments allowed. That means if you have a street that goes like this and you want to run the sewer from here to here, you don't get to go through the lots. You have to follow the street to get there. And the developer shall use the City of Hayden sanitary sewer in accordance with the adopted sewer management plan. Post office box locations shall be identified with the U.S. Postal Service, and then if pullouts need to be built into that road typical, they can, that can happen during construction plan review. The landscape plans, you look at the landscaping at the time of the subdivision, but most of the landscaping doesn't go in until the time of the building permit. So it's kind of identified where you're gonna put things, what kind of trees you're gonna put in, and then as you're clearing and grubbing the whole surface and all the grass gets all torn up, the neighbors don't really like to be dusted out. So we ensure that you put down a dryland grass mix so that can kind of hold all that topsoil together until those lots are built on, and which time that landscaping and irrigation can go in. And requirements at the time of final plat is that public right-of-way shall either be dedicated on the plat or by separate document, and that all utility easements that are required by us and others are also either on the plat or on a separate document. And then the developer shall comply with the requirements from the fire department. Again, we don't have those in front of us today, but generally speaking, they talk about two-way access in and out, and that is met in this proposal as it's drafted. It's a single-phase subdivision, so they're gonna build it all at once. They work together with water jurisdiction to ensure placement of fire hydrants in the correct locations. And then they have fire flow requirements as well. The navigation easement requested by the Coeur d'Alene Airport shall be referenced, recorded separately, but then referenced on all final plats of the subdivision. And then we have a Planning and Zoning Commission motions to approve, continue, or to deny when you're ready for it. Any questions for me?
What are the improvements proposed for Maple and Miles along this frontage?
Pardon me?
What are the improvements proposed for along Maple and?
It's the half width that is part of the typical section for each of those streets.
Do you have what that looks like?
I don't in my PowerPoint.
Okay. What is that?
It's usually a street section, it's a curb, that's a 10-foot swale, and it's a sidewalk, and that 10-foot utility easement.
So they will widen Miles and Maple on their.
In
half-
accordance,
on their
in
half.
accordance to the typical sections.
Is there any improvements proposed for Miles and Government Way?
No. Not with this project.
Will there be streetlights or any lighting installed along?
Generally, there are streetlights proposed within the subdivision itself, and then where those two new roads meet the currently existing roads. Those are reviewed at the time of construction plans.
Okay, but not along Maple or Miles?
Generally, where those roads intersect Maple and Miles.
Okay, gotcha.
Do you know if on the transportation master plan, there's plans for a light at Miles and Government at any time soon?
There is a light proposed for Miles and Government Way that they have been working on.
Do we have a timeline on that?
I do not have a timeline.
Don, are you able to talk about the discussions that happened regarding the park or anything that was brought up by the engineer?
Well, we had a lot of discussions about park and park area, and the project site is 13 acres. The city did have first right of refusal for that piece of property and did choose at the time that they looked at this piece of property, the city chose not to purchase this piece of property for a variety of reasons. They chose not to buy it. So, for whatever reason, it was made that determination, and so they decided to look at other opportunities, and so that's what they're continuing to do. We, they, not me, it's above me.
But it was looked into, sounds like fairly
It was.
deep, okay. I'm guessing it came down to well, probably lots of things, but, okay.
I think there are lots of factors that were taken into consideration.
Any other questions?
One more. So no light is being talked about at Maple and
No
Miles?
traffic signal is
Traffic
talked
signal,
about
okay.
at that particular intersection, that's correct. I don't know if they'll have a light like a,
And nothing, probably, I know that intersection well, so a roundabout or anything outside of a four-way is really not feasible.
not at this point.
Any other questions?
Oh, about the property that's the one that's wrapped around on all three sides. So the development's going to happen with sidewalks and swells and everything on the east and west side of that, but at what point does that property have to have that sidewalk go through?
It'll go through as part of this project, because again, that's part of the boundary line adjustment code that requires that if either lot in a boundary line adjustment develops as part of a subdivision, they have to do all of the frontage improvements. That's that pavement widening, curb, swale, and sidewalk, as well as the connection of the utilities to the lot that is not a part of it.
Okay, so is the developer covering that and doing that for them?
They are.
Oh, nice, okay. Will there be, sorry, it's kind of hard to see, but along the western edge of that smaller interior property, is that going to have sidewalk along the west side of that smaller property there?
It is.
Okay.
we'll find out if they speak. Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
Any other questions?
You don't have any questions?
No, no questions? Okay, we will,
Is this the one you'd like me to leave up?
I would like that.
that's probably a good one to leave up, I think. Thank you, Donna.
Okay.
So at this point, we'll open up for public comments. Anyone who wants to offer comments regarding the subject case, please submit a completed form located on the table by the entrance doors. The forms must have your name, address, date, and whether you want to testify in support of, opposed to, or are neutral. Anyone planning to speak must do so at the podium so your remarks can be heard in the recording system. All questions and comments will be directed to the commission, not the applicant. The applicant will have the opportunity to answer questions and offer rebuttal after all public testimony is completed. All speakers will need to state their name and address for the record before they begin speaking. I will call first those supporting the application, then those uncommitted, and finally those opposed to the application. Please note the commission is not here to answer questions, but only take testimony, and we will limit individual public hearing to 3 minutes, and a group is 5, I believe. Is that correct?
5 and 15.
I'm sorry?
5 and 15.
5, okay. So individual comments will be limited to 5 minutes and group comment to 15. And are these all over?
There.
Okay. We'll do the group last. So first we have Ryan Stoker, who wishes to speak, and he is for the proposal.
Hello, Commissioners. My name's Ryan Stoker. I live at 2224 Eagle Crest Drive in Coeur d'Alene. I'm actually one of the 2 partners that are developing this project. What we're trying to do is build some single-family homes with shops. We also developed the fields. It was the old soccer field that was between Finucane and Maple. So if you've ever drove through that subdivision, that would be a lot of what this would look like, very similarly. As far as the comment you said earlier about the roundabout, if you guys, I'm an engineer also by trade, and if you guys can get the right of way for a roundabout there, I would be happy to construct it for the city. Yeah, well, otherwise, the only reason, obviously I'm for the development. We've tried to work closely with city staff in coming up with solutions to any of the challenges for the project. And I just wanted to avail myself if you guys have any questions of me personally.
Thank you.
No questions?
And I think too, when we do the rebuttal and things, you'll probably have an opportunity to speak at that time. And
Okay.
we can ask you questions then.
Very good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Kay Schneider, and she would wish to speak, and she is against the proposal.
Before she speaks, do you want to acknowledge this? She speaks for this one.
What's that?
Do you want to just acknowledge that he is for and doesn't wish to?
We did have Jeremy Roller, who did not wish to speak, but was for the proposal, so. we did
Oh,
have-
and we actually have 2 neutrals before. Okay.
Oh, we have one neutral, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm Kay, am I the right person? Yep.
We have 2 neutrals that just came in, so I'm gonna call them first, and then you'll be able to come up next after that.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Let's see, Judy Eichelberger, wishes to speak, and she is neutral.
Hi, my name is Judy Eichelberger. I reside at 7037 East Hayden Haven Road. And as a member of the community, maybe to give just a really brief background, I wear a couple of hats. I enjoy history and I enjoy horticulture, so that's why I'm here. A little bit of the history of the house that sits on the corner, the Hanson House. For those of you that didn't know, it was built in about 1905 by a Civil War veteran named Joseph Miles, and that's where the name of the road came from. Mr. Miles lived there with his wife until he died in 1939, and then Mrs. Miles remained in the house until she wasn't able to take care of herself. And at that time, not taking care of yourself meant that you were taken down to Orfino. So one day, the state came and kind of took her away, and she closed the door and never came back. So that house sat unoccupied for a few years until the Hanson family bought it, and this would be Ray Hanson's father, Adolph Hanson, who bought it. They raised their children there. Then Ray bought the house from his folks, and he raised his children there. And at the time of, those of you from the community, I know you saw Ray Hanson out in the yard quite a lot. He was always, especially as nice along the fence. He had a beautiful garden there, and I noticed over the years that eventually he brought a chair out to rest for a little while, and pretty soon he was in the chair more than he was working. So there's quite an extensive little garden there, and there's lots of outbuildings. And so that's a little bit of the history of the house. I got to say one more thing. Both generations of Hanson family, because the house was just left when Mrs. Miles left, they maintained the furniture and some of the belongings that were there from the Miles family. So that when Ray died and they were moving things out of the house, they even found some diaries that Mr. Miles kept while he was here, talked about the things that he did. In the shop, there was a place that was blocked off so the kids didn't bother, that had some of the tools and things from Mr. Miles. So there's a lot of memories there. So I hope I'm jumping the gun and when I talk about demolition of that house. But my proposal might be, because there's a good garden and because there's some history, we want to pass that history on. And while that may not be, we may not be able to see the house there, I would propose that before demolition, people from the community, especially the neighbors close by, be able to come in and rescue some of the plant material that's there. We know that, let's see, there's a couple of nice rose bushes. I know there's lots of irises there. So that just before big machinery came in, we might be able to rescue some of that. And there would be a caveat. Anybody that came to take a plant would also need to hear or be given a copy of the Miles and Hanson story so they could pass it on. I like to call it maybe growing it forward. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you. It's a great idea.
Yeah, it is.
Love it. May get this wrong. Is it Bill Bryzu?
Breezy.
Breezy, thank you. And he is neutral.
Yes, my name is Bill Breezy. I live at 12201 North Strayhorn. I am a member of the Hayden Historic Preservation Commission, although I'm not here in that capacity tonight. And I'm neutral because, we hate to see, the history demolished, but, what we want to try to do, if that happens, we want to be able to figure out how we can tell the story of what happened on that site, and one of the ways that I am thinking is that maybe at the corner of Maple and Miles is a little piece of land there be dedicated for a history board, so we can have a nice board that shows some original photographs of the place and talks about the history that Judy just talked about. So that's, and there's other ways of doing that, like saving parts of the buildings that are being demolished for different reasons, trim around windows or whatever it is, that can be done to kind of help, tie the story into the house that they're buying. So if this is approved, I would hope that the developer would consider these requests and, that's, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. We have Kurt White who would like to speak, and he is neutral.
Hello, my name is Kurt White, and I live at 10642 North Bly Court. And so I'm a secondary property on the cul-de-sac. And my concern is, I haven't seen anything about what kind of houses they're gonna build here. If they're really large lots, are they gonna build one-story houses? Or are they gonna build two-story houses? And am I gonna lose the one southern exposure that I have from everything else is blocked with trees? And are we gonna have am I gonna have people looking down into my backyard? So otherwise than that, I'm neutral. I know progress is here, and I hope everything goes well for everybody. Oh, just by the way, 5 days ago, I had a metal put in here, and I'm actually working.
Good job.
Thank you.
And,
Let's see what I have. So Kay Schneider? Is it, you are up.
I'm sure somebody will contact me.
Again.
Yeah.
My name is Kay Schneider. I live on Ezra Avenue, East Ezra. I've lived in the neighborhood for about 20 years. First off, I'll say I'm very disappointed that you decided not to make that a park.
That was out
We
of our
had really
hands.
hoped for that, and it would have been a nice size. My main concern, I guess, is I know it's city code that you have to put sidewalks in when you have a new development, and that further reduces the sizes of the lots. Narrows the streets. I've seen a development not far from me that had that problem, and they can only park on one side of the street because you have to put sidewalks in, so there your lot gets smaller. So I would hope that maybe the lots that, I think that at the top of the map there, that look very small from here, could be maybe paired up a little bit so that they are a little bit bigger, because a lot of people buying homes in the area now want to put a shop in. The men need something to do in the wintertime when it's cold. So I would hope that they could reduce the number of lots that they have. I can see some of them are large, but some of them are quite small. And then when you put a sidewalk in, it even gets smaller. And then what does that mean? Two-story houses. And look at the neighborhood. We don't have that many two-story houses. So that's my main concern, is that there are just too many lots on that piece of, that 13 acres of property. So thank you for your time.
thank you.
And we have, is it Lavelle or Laurel?
Laurel,
Laurel Cardenas, and you're speaking for the group?
yes. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Laurel Cardenas, and my husband and I are residents at 10518 North Maple. And just so you can know a little bit of what we're talking about, this is us right here. We have just shy of 2 acres. Our neighbors next to us are just shy of 3 acres. So there are rather large lots in that neighborhood. Also, before I kind of get, one of my neighbors that wasn't able to attend asked me to read a portion of her statement, and I will. And the first thing you need to know is her home is right next door to me, and they were not noticed. They do not occupy the home, but they do receive all their tax statements. And the only reason she knew to write this letter is because I contacted her. She would not see the posting and was not notified. And I'll just read a small portion of her letter. Thank you, and her name is Marcia Hawley. Thank you for hearing and considering our comments on the proposed subdivision. We've owned our property at 10482 North Maple Street since 2012. Our property is on Maple, directly across the street from the subject property. We have not yet received any notice in the mail of the new subdivision, but have only been made aware of it through neighbors who apparently received individual notices. Why have we chosen to make a comment at this meeting? If each one of us takes a serious look at our daily lives, we will see that decisions that are made in our local community affect us more directly than whatever decisions are made statewide and nationally. Local planning affects our lives every day. Local planning cannot be put on the back burner or ignored until some time in the future. When you step out of your door, local planning is there in front of you, affecting how you move and what you do. Truth be told, the actions of us as private citizens are directly affected by the plans made by your department. We appreciate that you folks will listen seriously to our comments and questions. Plans made by your department also affect you similarly to how they affect the rest of us. The new development is sitting in the middle of an area of properties that are larger than usual lot sizes. Properties on the east side of Maple and on the south side of Miles are larger lots. Most lots seem to be greater than half an acre, and many are greater than an acre, or as you know, even close to 2 or 3 acres. Our lot right across the street is 0.626 of an acre. These larger lots give the area a more tranquil feeling. We are aware the current roadways will be greatly impacted by the increased traffic. Is there an opportunity here and now to have the developer do an intense traffic study, a study that would give your department a good quantity of accurate information that could be used to make decisions regarding traffic? The decisions made now will affect all of our lives from years to come. Employees of the planning department do all of the reviewing and approving of the developments for the city of Hayden. The city council only finalizes the planning department's recommendations. We ask you and the planning department to remember what a long-lasting effect your decisions have on all of us and on all of you and your families and the rest of us and our families. We are familiar with the saying, time is of the essence. We trust the people of the planning department to improve on that expression by keeping foremost in their minds that care is of the essence, care which will affect all of our lives for years to come. Thank you for this opportunity to add our voice to the voices of our neighbors. We trust you will hear us. And then I'd like to go on to our statement. Thank you so much. My name is Laurel Cardenas. My husband and I live at 10518 North Maple Street in Hayden. First, let me thank you for this opportunity to speak before you this evening regarding the proposed Sycamore Valley subdivision. I would first like to state that I believe this meeting is being held prematurely and in violation of Hayden Code 11-1-7E, which requires at least 15 days written notice to be provided to homeowners within 300 feet of the proposed development. I am aware of at least one homeowner who has yet to be notified by mail. While they don't currently occupy their home, they are local owners who regularly receive their tax assessments from Kootenai County and should have been properly notified. However, in the event that this hearing is deemed appropriate, even with this significant violation, I would like to continue my statement with regards to this development. My husband and I have owned our home on Maple for several years and are happy to call ourselves Hayden residents. The proposed Sycamore Valley subdivision is very concerning to us for a number of reasons, and I'm here this evening to speak against its approval. The property in question currently has 3 homes and many acres of open space. The Sycamore Valley proposal adds 37 homes to 1 existing home, as well as that home that's carved out, totaling 38 homes on 13 acres. This is more than 12 times the current density of this property. This is a very significant increase to an already established existing neighborhood. The property where this home lies is in the heart of an already established Hayden community with 1 home going back more than 100 years. Other homes, including mine, have been in that area for 50 to 60 years. This parcel of land has been open space for more than 100 years. And to allow a developer to come in and so significantly increase the density with no allowance for open space is a travesty. In addition, many homes bordering this proposed development are also on larger lots, some nearly 2 or 3 acres in size. The proposed Sycamore Valley lots are significantly smaller than many of our adjacent properties and not consistent with the neighborhood. Additionally, this development doesn't appear to include any open space or provisions for parks. Quoting Hayden City Standards for Approval 3F, provisions have been made for parks and open space that are consistent with the adopted Parks Master Plan as amended and that satisfies the city's requirement. When the developer simply pays impact fees while simultaneously destroying all of our neighborhood's open space, it certainly shouldn't meet the city's requirement. The engineer for this project quoted a goal that the city of Hayden has adopted in the 2040 comprehensive plan with regards to allowing development within the city prior to considering annexation of other lands. I would like to quote another equally important goal included in that plan. Goal number 5, preserve, protect, and strengthen the vitality of existing neighborhoods. And also goal number 7, ensure adequate park, recreation, and open spaces are provided for and maintained for the continued enjoyment of the community. Also included in the 2040 comprehensive plan are policies that our city has adopted, including policy 13, which states that growth should be accompanied by the development of infrastructure, public services, utilities, and preservation of open space. The 2040 Park Master Plan goes on to state, and I quote, "The greatest long-term need the city faces for all planning quadrants is the provision of neighborhood parks." It also goes on to state that because of the intensely developed nature of the northeast and southeast quadrants of Hayden, the task becomes more difficult, and those areas will remain underserved without some diligence and a bit of good fortune. I'm asking for diligence from this committee on behalf of myself and my neighbors to ensure that we don't remain an underserved portion of this community. Any new developments being added to an already established neighborhood should be consistent with the existing homes. Our neighborhood is made up of primarily single-story homes or single-story homes with a basement. The homes to be constructed in this new development will most likely be, if previous developments are any indication, two-story homes as much as 45 feet high. These homes will tower over existing homes in our neighborhoods and block any views previously enjoyed by residents, especially those on Dana Court, who will have houses built directly behind them. This will do nothing to preserve the atmosphere and feeling of our established neighborhood and could negatively affect our home values. I would respectfully suggest that single-story homes be built on the perimeter and any larger two-story homes be built in the interior portion of the development. Another major concern for myself and numerous neighbors is an increase in traffic on both Maple Street and Miles. I believe the application submitted for Sycamore Valley primarily addresses the traffic within the development and doesn't fully address the added traffic to surrounding streets, especially Maple. The City of Hayden's past approval of multiple developments north of our location, including Hayden Canyon, have only increased the difficulty for nearby residents to access arterials such as Government Way traveling south. With no lights to safely access government at Buckles, Wyoming, Lacey, or Miles, many residents instead travel south on Maple to at least Hayden Avenue or even to Honeysuckle to access Government Way at a traffic signal. Since almost all businesses and services are located south of our location, significant numbers of residents use Maple Street as an alternative to government. I certainly don't blame them. As it's the safest alternative to trying to cross northbound traffic at government, which is extremely busy during most times of the day. I believe that the city staff and the Planning and Zoning Committee are unaware of the significant number of residents who currently access businesses and services via Maple Street. Adding further development without attention to the appropriate access of major streets and arterials, such as Government Way, is irresponsible and a burden to current residents. I just want to add that I know you guys asked about a light, and I've attended several city council meetings, and I know that there is a plan for a light to be at Miles. But I also know, as of the last that I heard, which could have changed, the city only owns right-of-way on one of those four corners. And I would certainly let Donna correct me if I am wrong. It could be years before there's a light at Miles. And my husband once took a tally of how many vehicles went past our house, and it was 200 in 1 hour. And I'm just not sure if anyone's aware of how busy that is. Included in this application was a response from Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, which stated that increased housing densities will have an impact on law enforcement response. We already live in a city with far fewer law enforcement officers per 1,000 residents than any of our neighboring cities. Adding new homes only increases the congestion and law enforcement response times for our city's residents. Finally, because Kulka Land LLC develops, and this is my understanding, and again, I can be corrected if I'm wrong, because they primarily only develop the land and the lots, then sell the development to a builder, or in some cases, multiple builders, residents may be forced to deal with ongoing constructions for multiple years. This is a great burden and significant nuisance to the existing neighborhood and surrounding communities who pass through our area regularly en route to Hayden businesses, schools, and churches. I've spoken to many neighbors regarding the development, and they are overwhelmingly against it, especially at the proposed density. The loss of this historic property and the open space it provides is felt deeply by all of our neighbors, and even significantly beyond our surrounding area. It would be much easier for residents to accept if the lot sizes were larger and fewer homes being built and open space being included. That still affords an opportunity to profit greatly while building fewer homes on larger lots that would most likely be sold at even higher prices. While I realize that change would involve additional costs to Kulka Land LLC, and they may be unwilling to hear and actually make changes based on what residents have to say, it would go a long way towards softening people's perception of developers and their perceived indifference to current residents. If a love for this community truly exists, please consider doing more to preserve this wonderful neighborhood. Thank you. And if I could add one more thing before I take my seat. Part of the requirement for noticing, besides my neighbor not being noticed, is the notice that goes into the newspaper. And I do receive the newspaper at home. I did see a notice published February 20th. It did list the wrong date for this meeting. I brought it with me just in case. I then scoured everything after that and could not find a posting for the appropriate date. That doesn't mean I didn't miss it, but I did look in every.
So it did get noticed twice. The meeting last week, we did not have because we didn't get all of the noticing out correctly. So that's why last week's meeting was canceled and it was re-noticed in the paper to do the correct date. But she is correct, it was noticed twice.
Well, I didn't say it was noticed twice because I couldn't find the second notice. I only found February 20th listing this meeting as occurring last week. However, the yellow signs in front of our house, they never.
They did get changed.
Yeah, they say the correct date.
Correct.
But I definitely do have an issue with noticing. I don't feel it was done appropriately.
Yeah, I'm sure. Legal could
Thank you.
respond to that.
The city is meticulous in their notice requirements, and I can all but guarantee that notice was done properly. But as short of checking each envelope and going back through records, I can't say that for sure.
Well, I would welcome that.
Would the applicant like to provide rebuttal at this time?
Again, Jeremy Truzulli for the record. Thank you for the opportunity to offer a rebuttal to some of those comments. A lot to digest, so forgive me if I jump around a little bit. With regard to traffic, all we have is the adopted master transportation plan, guidance of staff, and an assessment of the proposal. It was not required, and it didn't feel that this proposal rose to the level of requiring a full-blown traffic impact analysis, as the traffic master plan does propose and anticipate these parcels will develop out over time, that is accounted for in the master transportation plan. I'm not insensitive to the fact that there are some holes in it. And Maple, I used to traverse Maple every day for about 10 years when I lived over in Emerald Estates and all of my kids went to Hayden Meadows. So I understand Maple is narrow at points. The trees are right up against property lines. If there is an alternative here, one of the problems is the right-of-ways haven't been acquired. I've talked on other projects and just anecdotally with different members of staff, different council members, even the mayor, on different projects that we've had that have long since done and been built. And we just sit there and wonder, is there a better way than requiring this infill property to design its streets to city standard, meaning widening the road, putting in the sidewalk, the swale, for 300 feet, having it narrow back down, having one maybe a half mile up the road do the same. Because when you zoom out and look at the whole, everything in aggregate, I think it is unrealistic to think that this Maple, Reed on the other side of the highway comes to mind. I don't think they're ever going to look like Government Way. It's just not gonna happen. So you're dealing with a developer who is really good at this, and he really does care, and he puts quality stuff out there. We think about this a lot. His builder is a local guy who's here tonight. We're open to suggestions, that's all I can say. I've proposed it a few different times and we run into brick walls all over the place. It's like at some point, the community, the engineers, you guys, city council are gonna have to sit down and start thinking outside the box because you don't have to be an engineer to look at it and say, Maple's never going to look like Government Way. And I think I'll leave it at that. We are open to suggestions, truly. If it's a modified section along Maple and Miles, and whatever the savings would be for us building that whole section, dollar for dollar can go towards widening Maple throughout other areas, 100% we're open to it. But we need guidance. All we have is what we have at this point in time. Hopefully that helps. The noticing issue was addressed. We don't control noticing, that is on the city. And I would agree, city attorney, they're very diligent. Donna let us know that we'd have to delay this by a week because they were unsure if they met a threshold. And so that's what we did. So noticing, I do believe it's done properly. Regarding the parks, I've disclosed as much as I feel comfortable disclosing. When Donna brought the Parks Master Plan to our attention, we proceeded in good faith to try to meet that. The idea that the city, and I didn't want to say that, so I'm glad somebody else did. It was my understanding they had a first right of refusal on this property. It just so happens that fair market value for the property was in excess of what the city was willing to spend, I think is probably what it was. Maybe there were ongoing maintenance concerns with the structures on the property, I don't know. They had a chance to meet any offer that came in on this property and they chose not to exercise that first right. That notwithstanding, we attempted to say how much parkland on this specific site do you think would be suitable for the city's needs? We never really landed on a number. We just, again, we were operating in good faith. Those conversations were spirited at times. And when I proposed a property nearby that I thought might work, city staff indicated that that seemed more favorable to them. Bridging off of that and bridging into the historic value of the property. For God's sakes, yes, if we want to give plant some of them here down at City Hall, pull some lumber off of this structure and create some artwork that can be incorporated to tell that story. We are wide open. We don't want to just scrape this thing and say, let's go. We would allow the city, the Historic Preservation Society, anybody that wants to come work with us and move this structure onto a new piece. We're open. We're not just gonna bulldoze it down without letting anybody know. Those conversations are ongoing. My client received a call from somebody on historic preservation and asked if they could come in there and take some photos. He met him on site, showed him through the house, take some photos. Let's preserve the character and what this homestead was. We're open to all of those things. Again, don't think we're insensitive to that. So that will cover the historic value. Any talk about the type of houses that will be built on these lots? It's gonna be dictated by the underlying zoning. They're not gonna be abominations, I can assure you of that. You can see the product all throughout our community, all throughout Kootenai County. The lot sizes are literally identical to the ones to the north, the ones to the northeast, and many of them to the south. Literally identical. They match everything on Dana Court perfectly. The ones on the corner are even larger than that. So when it comes to what's being proposed here, we're proposing an R1 subdivision that meets all of the underlying requirements of the R1 subdivision. We are well under the density cap for an R1 subdivision. And, you know, city code mirrors and pulls from Idaho statute. That's what they have to do. Idaho statute holds private property rights as almost sacred. That's my property rights, that's your property rights, and that's everybody in here, their property rights. It recognizes in state statute that if a property owner chooses to develop their property, that a city offer a path to do that by putting requirements in place, maintaining public sentiment that doesn't get dispensed with, but private property rights are very important in the state of Idaho. If a private property owner can benefit from municipal infrastructure, Idaho statute wants to have a path for that person to realize the development potential of their property. So city is required to hold a quasi-judicial process by which, like I said in the beginning, we present findings of fact, present our case that we believe it meets all of those requirements, and then it is up to the city to render that decision. We believe without question that this request meets the underlying requirements, and we respectfully request a recommendation of approval. And I'm here one more time to clarify anything if needed.
May I ask a question to him? Okay. I'm sure you guys have probably thought about it, but what was the answer or discussion about turning the 6 property space in the middle there into a park, like a wild nature park? Like, doesn't need to have playgrounds and stuff, but like a natural walking area, and then with the lady's suggestion, possibly putting some sort of information board on the history for the location.
We were open to all ideas. That one never got posed to us by city staff. We were leaning more towards reserving 4, 5, 6-ish lots in the corner, and up Maple the discussion centered more around that. But again, any discussion of parkland on this site never materialized to an official offer of any kind.
Okay.
Jeremy, we've seen some instances where developers have paid impact fees in lieu or paid them up front in order to get traffic improvements done. Is that something that we could be looking at to get that light put in at Government Way in Miles in a quicker manner?
Yeah, I mean, we'd be open to just about anything, honestly. I mean, from my understanding, I'm actually part owner of the southeast corner of Government Way in Miles, and we bought that property specifically hoping that light would come in sooner than later. I think urban renewal funds is gonna be the ticket there, my opinion.
And that was, and we just put those 4 corners into urban renewal, I believe.
I think I was always in urban renewal.
Yes.
Yeah,
So okay, maybe the entire intersection wasn't in there,
it
but
wasn't, yeah, so
we, honestly, Ryan's a good dude. Yeah, he's a developer. If there is something that makes sense for the community, will benefit the development and ensure public safety, improve traffic flow, we will sit down at any meeting and have a good faith discussion about what that looks like. I can assure you of that. Thank you, everyone.
Does anyone on the commission have any further questions?
Anybody what?
Anyone on the council have any further questions?
Yeah. It just doesn't seem consistent with the rest of the neighborhood.
That's in our discussion, that's not,
Okay.
yeah.
I can't bring that up, you know?
Donna?
Yeah.
You will with
I think, what should we leave up there? I think we'll leave that up actually for discussion.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're not gonna give us any more, right? We're done now. Correct?
Yeah, unless, yeah, questions
any
and
questions for
deliberations
Donna?
that you have for me.
Anybody have any questions for Donna?
You did a good job, as always.
The in lieu of that we did, that I asked about, is that's typically on a much larger subdivision based on the amount of money?
Correct.
Okay.
A traffic, the request, we had questions about a traffic impact analysis, and the city adopted a policy that says when a traffic impact analysis is required, and the number of trips that, peak trips that would come out of a subdivision with this many lots did not trip the requirement for a transportation impact analysis. And that analysis, should it have been required, would have had mitigation requirements in it should they have been needed. And so, since that wasn't required and they weren't needed, it's not a part of this request. I'm not suggesting that if the owner wants to do something over and above, he can do that, but the requirements are not there at the moment. Does that clarify TIAs and how they work?
Yep. Anyone else? Any more questions?
Yeah, Donna, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but for parks, wasn't there a requirement for when building a development, you have to dedicate X amount of acreage or land space to be a park in that development?
No, that's part of old code from like 5 or 6 years ago, and that, or longer. We had code at that point in time that if you had a piece of property that met a certain threshold of acres, which this does not, that you would have to give a certain percentage of that to parkland. And what we ended up with were these little puddles of parks everywhere that became public parks the city didn't want to maintain until that code changed.
Okay.
So that does not exist today, but that was part of that condition that I kind of was roaming around with is related to, you know, we like to connect our parks with multimodal pathways and ways to connect them. So if you wanted to add that condition in there, that should a opportunity arise that, you know, between now and some point in the future, you could add that as a condition that isn't already there today.
It's just a shame there's no parks anywhere except for McCall or here. So would we have to purchase the land from them? Say if we wanted those 6 little lots there in the center there to turn it into a park, we'd have to purchase those.
The city would have to do that, correct?
Okay.
And develop and maintain it.
Correct,
And that's already been talked about and
I believe so.
been down that process.
I got $200 in a lawnmower.
So taxpayers would have to basically purchase that property to turn it into a park right
Correct.
now, if we're talking
is
about
correct.
those 6 lots.
Correct.
Just as they would any of the neighboring properties,
That's
if somebody chose to sell them.
Okay. The hearing is now closed. No further questions or comments will be allowed from the public. Commissioners, do you wish to proceed? schedule deliberations or schedule deliberations for another day?
I would proceed.
Proceed?
Yeah.
Proceed? I think you're right. Proceed. Proceed. I'm good with that. Okay. And now, deliberate on this. And so, just for the public's, this is when we discuss whether we recommend approval or recommend denial to the city council. We actually aren't making the final approval here. We're recommending to the city council, and then it goes to city council for their decision. If it goes how you would like or not, you will have another opportunity to go before city council on this as well. Okay. Chris, what are your thoughts? I'll start with you.
I'm sorry.
Well, I've lived north of this property and have for over 30 years, so I'm certainly well aware of the concerns about more homes in general. And been driving by this property for, a long time. So everything that's been brought up, I certainly understand and appreciate. Also, however, having looked through it all, I do feel like the developer on this has, done all their due diligence. The lot sizes are, fortunately, it looks like roughly about 30% larger than they have to be, which I appreciate. Maybe not all, and that's a generalization, but they're larger than required. I think the challenges, with traffic are real, and, I hope we can come up with a solution that'll would solve those over time if they're even solvable. But as far as it meeting all the criteria that I'm aware of, going through the process, working towards coming up with a park plan that clearly must have been either not affordable or something for the city and the taxpayers. I think they've done what they can, so, I would vote to, and I don't know if that's our time now, but, to.
So you would recommend approval?
I would recommend approval at this point, yeah.
Vince?
Probably not.
No? And
I just not, it doesn't seem to be consistent with the rest of the neighborhood.
okay.
That's all. And those little guys in the middle, you're sitting there eating at your dining room table, and you see the other guy. I live in that neighborhood. I know.
All right.
Okay, so no, I couldn't really, I'm comfortable with it.
Tony? I have nothing. Joel, it's your last chance. Last meeting.
I don't believe that it matches the neighborhood character. I don't like that there's no parks, there's no land, and that it will increase the neighborhood traffic. I do like that they would be connecting Dana Court to sewer, so hooking them up with services, I think, is a positive. I understand that growth is going to happen, and I do appreciate that these are bigger lots and they're not just stacked full of condos and apartments. But I think it could be done a little bit better, and it is quite strange to be driving through a neighborhood such as Miles or Maple and see, all of a sudden a development with with sidewalks and everything, and then go back to the rural feel. I wish that could be changed, but other than that, I don't have a positive feeling about this neighborhood. I know they've done their best with what they have, and I believe they are working with the city in good faith for the parks, or for the development and everything, but I feel like it should be taken back to the drawing board, and I do wish that we could do something as far as, it doesn't seem to me like we need to develop a park, but rather leave like an open space. Leaving an open space with a board, or if the community pitched in together to preserve a little bit of the property in the southeast corner, and then work together with maybe the historic committee or something like that. I feel like there's just something that could be done about this neighborhood instead of just infilling, which, I'm for infill rather than just, acquiring more property outside of town. But I feel like this could be revised for a better, neighborhood character, to meet a better neighborhood character. And that's all.
I think as I go down the conditions of approval, there's a couple things that stand out. There's a definite benefit, as you mentioned, that by extending sewer to Dana Court and getting those properties off of septic, which will definitely benefit the aquifer, which is something I think we all worry about. Transportation, I just don't see how without a light at Miles that, I mean, that's a dangerous intersection as it is, and even one or two cars get backed up, you're sitting there for 5 minutes at that intersection. That's definitely a failing intersection, so.
Especially on a Sunday.
I would, if I were to recommend approval, I would say that you can't issue building permits until there's a light at Miles. You know, some type of stipulation like that. And the sidewalks to nowhere, I don't know that we're ever gonna, until the city figures out a different method of improving roads, that's what we're gonna be stuck with, so we have to work with what we have. So it is good that they're at least, you know, that's a long stretch of road that'll be improved there. Then you can hop over to the side where the church is, where they've improved the road, so maybe that'll help everybody. As for the parks, the only way we're gonna get a park in that quadrant, and, because there's no really big parcels, is that some citizen out of the goodness of their hearts either gonna sell us some property at below market value or donate it in a conservation easement. I think that's the only way we're gonna get a park in that area, so. I don't think the onus is on this developer. The city had the opportunity to buy it, and they refused. Sounds like they're trying to find an alternative. So I would go with Donna's recommendation that we add something in that should a future park come in close proximity, that there be some type of access available through this subdivision. So those would be my recommendations. Anybody want to make a motion or more discussion?
Well, they're here and there's what, could the motion be made that we approve with a couple conditions?
Yeah,
Is that-
yeah, we could add conditions to what, because we're
Okay.
just recommending approval to the
Okay.
council.
Okay.
And that we're saying if we would approve it, it'd be with these conditions.
Mhm. Yeah, I would agree. If it's, you know, the condition of the Miles light, or at least of, you know, having that in place at the time of construction, you know, I'd love to see that, if that's something that's feasible.
Is that something we,
It's probably not within your purview.
Okay, that's what I was
we can
thinking.
put it in there and let the council
Yes,
decide
you
on the
can.
legality
You
of
can
it?
place all the burden
Okay.
on that.
Yep, yeah.
But you need to tie it back to a finding. That
Well,
you
the finding-
have,
the findings-
that you have record, that's a part of the record.
Because there's no traffic study, we can't recommend that, is that what you're saying? I mean, it's pretty obvious if you drive that road. I can,
I'm not in disagreement that there doesn't need to be a light at Miles
Yeah, I don't-
and Government Way. All I'm saying is that if you add a condition, it needs to tie back to a standard of approval, and you
Okay.
have to be able to make a finding to get to that condition. That's all I'm saying. I'm not
Okay.
just
Yeah, we
trying to
just-
tie all your knots together here. That's all.
yep.
I don't know if we can we even
I
get
think
to
we
that?
add it in there, and it's because it's, you know, based on this standard of approval with, traffic.
Okay.
And I would imagine that there's probably a study somewhere that shows that that intersection's failing, so we'll base it on that. You know, when they do the A, B, C, D, E, F, I'm sure it's in there. That's why they're recommending a light there, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you make the motion, or?
I don't think I can. I think you have to make the motion.
You can make a motion, certainly.
I'll make it, but I need help how we want it,
Okay.
the language then.
Yep. Yes, I would go with this,
Mhm.
and then we'll add additional conditions.
Okay, so I move to recommend approval PZ-25-0080 Sycamore Valley subdivision request with recommended conditions of approval, finding the request is in accord with the standards of Hayden City Code based upon testimony received at the Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing and the record of the request.
And
And then you
Subject.
add additional conditions.
Additional condition would be, more research on the light at Miles and Government Way, or,
Or, I mean, you could put a condition that until that light's in, you can't issue building permits, or I don't know how you recommend that.
I don't know that I can do that.
I think it's conceptually difficult to say
Is it?
a developer at this area has the
Yeah,
burden.
I don't think we can do that. Which I would move to, I guess I would just recommend approval, PZ-25-0080.
I mean, it'll be on the record so the council will know that we have these concerns,
Right.
so, because they do get a transcript of
You
this.
can still put conditions. I'm thinking that the traffic condition is difficult if we don't have something definitive stating that you can rely on, stating that, and I lived off of Lacey for 15 years and I traveled Maple every day, so
Do we have that traffic study that shows the intersections that are available to us right now?
it's not a part of the record. That's,
that would be new information that is presented to you that you can't use to make a decision
Yeah.
at present.
Can we add a stipulation that 2 lots be donated to the city as a possible, natural park land?
You probably can't at this stage. I would say no. I would say though that the city of Hayden is actively working to find lots within the Parks Master Plan to acquire for parks. It's just that we don't have anything finalized and we don't have information to give you that if we were able to get a park in the area, that would aid in your vote right now.
And it sounds like the developer, I think, is willing to do something, at least to do like historical signage or something on that corner there to kind of recognize the history of that spot.
Yeah.
For the record, is that a condition that you guys are,
No, we're kind of hashing it out right here.
sorry,
I don't know how to cover the traffic
Right.
light condition then.
Yeah.
Realistically, yeah.
I don't think you can.
No, so do we need to review
Well,
that
then,
traffic?
Even I think then, and if council listens to what we're talking about, then maybe they have that traffic light study as part of their hearing.
Okay, then motion to
Maybe
approve.
put that in there as a condition that it's added to the council's, because you can add additional information to their hearing, correct?
if you add additional conditions that are beyond what we have currently part of the record, then it would require a public hearing with the city council. As of right now, no requirement, it would go to a public meeting if you were to leave the motion as it is without adding additional new information.
Yeah, just trying to get the state of those lights or those intersections and their grade into the next hearing.
So motion approved, subject or conditioned upon the city council,
I don't know, like reviewing, I don't think we can.
I just don't.
But I think we've talked about it enough that they're gonna
Yep,
know that
okay,
it's a
so I'd just make
concern.
a recommend, make a motion to approve PZ-25-0080.
Are you
As written.
subjecting it to any conditions as written, or the conditions Donna talked about?
Yeah,
or
I
are you
think
just
we
doing
would
it
add,
as
do
written?
you wanna add the condition of future connectivity to a adjacent park?
Correct, yes.
And did you want to add the condition about the interpretive signage that you mentioned in your deliberations?
Yeah, let's put a little,
Yes,
yeah, in addition of an interpretive sign at the, yeah,
at the corner of Maple and Miles.
there we go. Anyone, any discuss the motion, or? We can take it to roll call.
You need a second.
Oh, we need a second.
I'll second that motion.
We have a second. We have a roll call.
Commissioner Vargas,
You gotta vote.
He made a motion to approve it.
Okay,
So it's a roll call vote, Commissioner Vargas, so you get to vote yes or no.
Oh, okay.
Do you?
Yes.
Yes? You had said you were kind of opposed to it based off of the,
Yeah, it was, yeah, but
okay,
I'm disease, I go along with a lot of things.
okay. All right. That's a yes?
Commissioner Johnson,
Nay.
Chair Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Grano,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Morris.
Yes.
So the motion is approved, and that's only, it's approving it to recommend approval to the city council. The city council will still have another public hearing, and we'll hear, and you can have, present your same evidence, and then they will make a decision, and their decision is final.
City Council only has a public meeting. Is that right, Donna?
Yeah, we'll have Fonda review the record and determine whether or not we need to go forward with a public
Gotcha.
hearing
Sorry.
at city council or not.
Yeah, sorry.
You supposed to do anything more on these
It
things?
will,
Just turn it off.
they'll still
We're
hear
not
it.
done yet.
It'll be in front of
No,
them,
we got
but it
Donna.
will not be
Yeah, we have
open to
more.
the public to provide additional comments.
Never mind.
Well, they're done.
It'll be up to whether or not they think that those two additional conditions are substantial enough to require it to have an additional public. Chair Taylor, are we taking a few seconds? We have a member of the public that would like me to re-put up a map.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh. Yeah.
You want to take a break, or we just?
Let the public.
Take a break after the meeting?
This one?
Do you want to give your report?
Yes, but that's why, maybe a 2-minute recess
have
would be
this.
good here?
Oh,
Donna.
yeah, we'll do a little 2-minute recess.
Yes.
Okay.
I can give him this.
We are back.
Bye.
Mr. Morris.
And they said
Where'd he
37
go?
homes means 37 trips, so they refused. It would have been 75.
Chris go to the did Chris go to the restroom?
So go play.
Trips per house. That would have been easy. They refused.
We were gonna wait for Commissioner Morris to return. And then we resume.
We have eagles, pheasant,
Where do you
everything.
lose Mr. Morris?
You have an apple.
Go to the restroom.
Yes, or a bushel down the road.
Well, I didn't know, right? Why do we have-
I did call it back to order already.
Okay, good.
We're just waiting, it's called back to order, but we're waiting for Commissioner Morris.
Okay. So, tonight is Commissioner Johnson's last hurrah on planning and zoning. We're appreciative of all of his service for the city. We're gonna miss him and his expertise, both from a parks guy as well as from a planning and zoning perspective.
Did you get him a cake?
We actually have treats in the kitchen. They almost didn't make it down here because the upstairs staff likes to eat things when they are out.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
So there are goodies back there to celebrate Commissioner Johnson's service to the city.
How long have you been doing this?
I kind of went out like.
3 years with this, 3 years with Parks.
It's all good.
Okay.
That's what we're
Six
here
year
for.
total.
Yeah.
All right, we now have all commissioners. So Donna, do you have a community development director's report?
We do have projects milling around in the wings. And so there are a couple of more preliminary plats floating around that will be coming before the commission, but they have not been noticed to date. So we're going to have probably a call-in meeting at our next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, most likely because it'll be a recommendation of this public hearing, but we will not have been able to meet noticing requirements to get on that meeting. So just as an example of what noticing requirements are for the city, just to kind of rehash that since noticing came up pretty actively there, we're required to provide a legal notice in the Coeur d'Alene Press at least 15 days prior to a public hearing. So we tend to.
calendar days, or is that?
15 calendar days, but we usually try to make that so that we hit a Friday paper, generally speaking. That's what our target is. So you get the weekend in there and then, so it gives you a little bit of buffer. In order to hit that Friday paper, because the press is, and they're noticing folks take on more than just the press, we actually have to get that notice to them by 11 o'clock the Tuesday prior. So the notice goes in as a legal notice. It then also gets emailed out through a public service announcement to a variety of other newscasters, KXLY, KHQ, CRIP 2, Blue Sky Broadcasting, Nicholsworth gets one. I mean, it gets blasted everywhere. And then generally speaking, a version of that gets put on the city's website under public hearings. And that notice basically says that when the staff review is done, it'll get posted as well on that same site. Under public hearings on the website, you can go in and you can click the public hearing, you can hit the comment form, and you can put your comment right there, and it automatically gets zapped to us. You can email comments in directly to planning, or you can send them on the form. Sometimes we've even had people come in here and we've taken notes for them so that they can have their comments heard. So we take comments, every comment, very seriously. So those are the legal notices. Then we take these great big yellow signs that you see out there, posted out there and tied to 2 fence posts. And they're posted with that same, the same information that goes out in the mailers that we send out. Our mailers are far more in-depth as far as what the heck is going on. We try really hard on the mailer information to give you enough information that you could actually consciously make a comment on what it is, which I can honestly say I've had to call other jurisdictions I've been noticed on and said, what are we doing here? So We find that, we work on that.
And the
hard and
mailers go
heavy.
to just,
Okay,
like,
the
within a
mailers
couple
go to
blocks of the area?
Everybody within 300 feet of the exterior boundaries
300
of
feet,
the
okay.
project. That 300-foot radius report is provided to us, those folks within that 300-foot radius is not something that staff generates. It comes from a title company, and they provide us with that 300-foot radius report. So that's what we go off of to do those notices.
Radius report.
It's called a
Radius
radius
report.
report.
A radius for what?
It's the exterior boundaries of the property.
And all the properties within 300 feet.
So if this was the exterior boundaries of the property, everywhere 300 feet around that
Establishing property lines.
Would get notified.
would get notified.
So the people across the street definitely got notified of it.
Well, they go out of here, so, what happens after that, I can't speak to, but we do take that list and do notify them. So, the reason that the noticing glitch happened from the 9th, from last week to this week, is because the legal went out in the paper, the PSAs got posted, the, website got posted, everything went out, but the mailers didn't go out. So because the mailers didn't go out, we held that, and the city paid for the second noticing, because that was our error, and then redid the dates and resent out those notices.
Oh, so the developer
So-
pays for the noticing,
Generally speaking, when it's,
unless we mess up.
unless we mess up.
Gotcha.
So I just wanted to explain that, that happens with every single thing that requires public hearing. So every public hearing that you guys see, every public hearing that goes to city council, public hearings that are like our minor subdivision process that are still public hearing, all of those notices all get noticed that same way. Okay, all right, so that's kind of the docket. So as those
April 6th is the meeting that'll be,
call in, so you'll need to be here at a minimum,
I will be at
or
the
Chris
free
will
ride
be here.
championships, so will you be around on the 6th?
We need to have you in person.
My kids are skiing.
I'll be here.
I can call in, but I'll be in Canada.
Okay.
Downhill?
Good one for me to run a call in.
Free ride.
Not
So-
this one.
We also will have, most likely, the end of April, first part of May, we'll have our planning and zoning code text amendments, most likely will come back. We'll probably have one more workshop before we go to full public hearing, because we have potentially some changes.
Okay,
All right?
So how many days?
is that it?
It is.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Woo. And don't forget, we